All right, let's just jump right in. We're living in what's supposed to be the most connected time in all of human history, right? And yet, you and I both know so many of us feel more alone than ever. It's this huge paradox, and that's what we're going to dig into today, this idea of living in a country of one. So, to really get to the heart of this, let me start with a story. I want to ask you something. Have you ever heard of a character named Philip Nolan? Okay, so Philip Nolan, he's the protagonist in this really old story from 1863 called The Man Without a Country. The setup is this. Nolan's a military officer, he gets tangled up in a treason plot, and in a moment of anger, he just curses the United States. Well, the judge decides to grant his wish in the most brutal, literal way you can imagine. He sentences Nolan to live out the rest of his life at sea, completely cut off. He's never allowed to see his home country or even hear a single word of news about it ever again. But here's the thing. This story is so much more than just a tale about punishment. It's really a deep dive into what it looks like, what it feels like to be a country of one. Just a single, isolated person who is absolutely desperate for a connection to something, anything bigger than just themselves. And this is really where Philip Nolan's story stops being about some fictional character from the 1800s and starts being about you and me and all of us. Because it turns out we just aren't built to be a country of one. You know, the author Frederick Backman, he just nailed this, and with a great sense of humor too. He said the worst thing we know about other people is we can't live without them. All the idiots. It's funny, right? But it's also a fundamental truth. At our core, we are deeply, deeply social creatures. And yet, here's the problem. Despite that fundamental need for connection, we seem to be drifting further and further apart. The data is pretty clear on this. We're actually living through what people are calling a full-blown epidemic of loneliness. We're becoming a nation of isolated individuals. So there was this recent study, the American Social Capital Survey, and it found that our social connections, well, they're fraying. The numbers, they really paint a stark picture of just how much we're pulling back from one another. I mean, just look at this. The trend is so clear. If you compare today to just 20 years ago, we're spending less time out in public spaces, less time in hobby groups. We're not even having friends over to our own homes as much. We are, for all intents and purposes, actively retreating into our own little private worlds. But this is where it gets really serious. This isn't just about feeling sad or being a little bored. This is a full-on public health crisis. I mean, the U.S. Surgeon General has officially declared that all the social isolation, it has major implications for our physical and mental health. And the CDC, they back this up. They're linking this isolation to a whole host of increased health risks. We're talking about things like a higher risk of heart disease, obesity, diabetes, anxiety disorders, depression, even cognitive decline. Think about that. We are literally getting sick from being lonely. So what's driving all this? I mean, there are a bunch of factors, right? Things like online shopping, our crazy overscheduled lives. But a Harvard project found something really telling. A staggering 75% of people, 3 out of every 4 of us, believe that our excessive use of technology and social media is a major, major cause. It's pulling us away from actual, real face-to-face connection. Okay, so if living in a country of one is the problem, then what's the alternative? Where do we go from here? Well, there's this really powerful counter-idea. It's about moving from being these isolated individuals to becoming members of a single household. And here's what that contrast looks like. On one side, you've got the country of one. That's a world of strangers, aliens, just isolated atoms bouncing around randomly. But on the other side, you have this idea of a household of God, where we're co-citizens, members of a group, intentionally built together into something whole, something meaningful. Now, that specific metaphor, the household of God, it comes from the book of Ephesians. But listen, you absolutely do not have to be religious to get how powerful this idea is. The core concept is totally universal. It's about creating a community where nobody is an outsider, a place where every single person is an essential part of the whole structure. That's a really powerful idea, right? But I know what you're thinking. It can feel a little abstract. So what does building a household actually look like in practice, in the real world? Well, it looks like this. It looks like people preparing and serving meals for the hungry. It's folks getting their hands dirty, tending community gardens together. It's collecting basic necessities for women's shelters.
or hosting something fun, like a Christmas tree lighting for the whole neighborhood. It can even be as simple as working together on building maintenance. These are the small, tangible, real-world acts that build a real community from the ground up.
But here's the thing. Building this kind of community, it isn't just about feeling less lonely. And this brings us to the final and, honestly, maybe the most important point of all. It's about something much, much deeper. See, the ultimate goal here, it isn't just social connection just for the sake of it. The real point is to provide a space where we can actually become better versions of ourselves. And the key word there is together. The writer David Brooks, he just captured this ache so perfectly. He wrote that what our hearts often yearn for most is a transformation, a real change of the heart, the chance to gradually become a better person deep down inside and to be a better presence in the world around us. And that is the journey that a real, true community makes possible. It becomes a place where we can actually seek that genuine transformation, a place where it's okay to admit that we all stumble, that we all fail sometimes. And it's where we get the support we need from each other to just keep trying, to keep working on becoming that better presence in the world. So really, the key takeaway is this. The journey to becoming a better self, more compassionate, more whole, it is not a solo mission. It's a journey we were never, ever meant to take alone. And all of this, it leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. Remember, we started with one man, totally isolated on a ship. But the real story isn't about him. It's about all of us, right here, right now. So the question is, how do we in our own lives stop being a country of one and start building a household? Because maybe, just maybe, in learning how to build a better self, we can actually start to build a better world.